Okay, we're in Zecharia Perek Dalet, Zecharia Chapter 4. Now, it's been a week since we learned Chapter 3, Perek Gimel. But Zecharia, according to the Malbim, is bothered with the prophecy he received last time. He didn't fully understand it. And this was the foundation stone that we're setting for the Bet HaMikdash, was engraved in its 7 eyes, and didn't fully understand the meaning of those 7 eyes. So Vayashov HaMalach HaDover Bi. So the angel that was talking to me came back in his vision. Vayar'eni, and he woke me up. Ke'ish asher ye'or mishenato, like a man who is awakened from a dream. So the Malbim says, what's the significance that he's woken up? Meaning that he was in a slumber he didn't understand. And Malach awakens him to make him understand, like if a person's in a dream and a slumber, he doesn't really fully, his mind's not fully working. He awakened him to understand the vision that he saw before. Vayomer elai, and he says to me, Ma taroeh, Zecharia, what do you see in the vision? Vayomar ra'iti, Ba'omar, he says, ra'iti v'hineh menorah zahav kula. I see a menorah, completely of gold. Ve'gula al rosha, and above the menorah is a gula, is a bowl, big bowl that holds oil. Ve'shivah neroteha alea, and on the menorah there are 7 lamps. Shiv'ah ve'shiv'ah mutzakot lanerot asher rosha. And we have shiv'ah shiva, the way Rashi learns it, there are actually 7 channels or pipes from this bowl that are flowing into the 7 lamps of the menorah, feeding them oil. And Rashi learns shiv'ah shiva, there's actually 7 per each one. So we have 49 pipes going through feeding, right? Feeding oil to these menorot. Ushnaim zatim alea. And above that, there are 2 olive trees. Echad b'yamin gula, one to the right of this bowl, ve'echad mismola, and one to the left. This is so far the vision that he sees. So what's this idea of this menorah and the 7 lights? So usually, how does a menorah get light? A person lights it. How do you get oil? A person feeds it with oil. Here, this menorah is not being fed by a person. It's being fed by a bowl, which is being fed by 2 olive trees. Later on in the vision, we're going to see the details, how those olive trees give oil into these lamps. So the message, the Malbim says, the Radak says first, look what Radak says simply, he says, everything in the world is expressed in 7s. Everything in the world is expressed in 7s. We have, the Radak says, everything in the world has 6 sides, right? We have top, bottom, and the 4 sides. And the kana in the middle of the menorah, it represents the invisible sides that holds everything together. That's the 7th side. That's the Shabbat, right? We have 6 days in the week, and the Shabbat kind of holds the week together. Everything in the world physical is made of 6, and that basis, that yesod, that foundation that holds everything together is the 7th. That's why, and there's also 7 colors in the rainbow and 7 musical notes. Everything in the world is expressed in 7. And that's the menorah is expressing, in a sense, all the wisdom that is found in the world, which is the menorah expresses. And it represents, so the 7 eyes that we saw before, we said represents Hashem's hashgacha, Hashem's mashgiach over the world, Hashem's divine providence, right, over the world, how he conducts the world. Now, how Hashem runs the world in a physical sense is through intermediaries. What is one of the intermediaries used to run the world? We said it's a shiva kochve lechet. What are the shiva kochve lechet? These are the 7 planetary bodies that influence the world. And if you study the zodiac, right? Besides, every month has its sign and its influence. Every hour of the day is influenced by a different body. We have the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, right? These are the bodies that influence the day. Depends on under what you're born under, what influence you will have. We once learned together Barachot that goes through every single one. A person who's born in Ma'adim, we saw before, a person born on the Mars will have an affinity to blood. He could be a murderer or he could be a mohel, right? Depends on how he uses it, right? That's that's the idea. So Hashem runs the world with Shiva Koch Velecha. That's the 7 represented here in the menorah. But here, this menorah is not running on natural means. This menorah is being showered on with oil from above, which means what this Nebuah is expressing in the words of the Malbim. There's a Mayan Elyon. This pasuk says, "Menahar yotze me'Eden," is a river that flows from Eden. Lehashkot et hagan, to what? Bring water to the garden, right? So there's the Nahar, there's a river that flows from Eden, Lehashkot et hagan, that feeds the garden. So where is this hashpa'ah, this blessing, the life force coming from? From Eden. Where's Eden? Eden's not here. Eden's in Olam Haba, it's in the upper world. It's not here, right? And so the flow of the world is no longer going to come through the menorah, through something physical, through the physical planetary bodies that influence the world, but it's going to come directly from Hashem, right? That's kind of what the vision seems to be implying to Zecharia Navi. And I answered, I said to the Malach, Hadoverbi, who's speaking to me, Lemor, Ma'ele Adoni. I said to him, I don't understand. What am I seeing? So Rashi learns what he was asking about Ma'ele Adoni. Rashi learns simply because the olive trees were actually being squeezed by themselves. They didn't understand what the significance of that was. The oil was being squeezed on its own. And that's what's bothering him. The Mabim says in general, he didn't fully understand the vision of the menorah and what the message he's trying to tell him. You do know what they mean. You know what the menorah represents in the Bet HaMikdash. You know what its symbolism is. That's what it is. Zecharia says, no, I still don't understand. It's fascinating. We don't find this anywhere. That Zecharia is arguing with the Malach who's showing him the vision, and explaining to him. He says, no, I don't understand. It's a funny back and forth. Vayan. So he answers me, I'll give you more explanation. I'll tell you what's happening. This was the word of Hashem to Zerubbabel. You remember who's Zerubbabel? Zerubbabel is the descendant of David HaMelech. And it's brought down that actually he could have been Mashiach if the Jews would have been worthy in that generation. Remember those who were with us before, we're discussing here at the time of Persia, where the Jews 18 years before had been back to rebuild the Bet HaMikdash, and the construction was stopped. And now Zecharia and Haggai received the nevuah that go back and start building. That 70 years of exile has passed, and now it's time to build, right? So Zerubbabel is the political leader of the Jewish people, right? Kind of the king. And we saw Yehoshua ben Yotzedek is the Kohen Gadol, is going to be the Kohen Gadol. He's the Kohen Gadol. And his father was the last Kohen Gadol of Beit Rishon in the first temple, and he's going to be the first Kohen Gadol in Beit Sheni. So that's what we're discussing here. So he says, this is what Hashem's dibur was to Zerubbabel. Lo bechayil, not with war. Lo bekoach, not with strength. Are you going to conquer Yerushalayim and build a Bet HaMikdash? Ki im beruchi amar Hashem tzavaot. But rather with my spirit. Hashem says it's through me, and through me only. None of your own strength and influence has anything to do with it. So many learn we're discussing Beit Sheni. But reality, many learn we're discussing Beit Shlishi. And the answer is both pshatim are correct, right? That's what we learn both ways. The second Bet HaMikdash is actually fascinating. It's built in some ways like the house of Shlomo, the first Bet HaMikdash that was built, and in many ways following the Nevuot of Yecheskel regarding the third Bet HaMikdash. Kind of in between the two of them. Second Bet HaMikdash doesn't follow Shlomo's Bet HaMikdash completely, partially follows the Bet HaMikdash HaShlishi of Yecheskel HaNavi. And the idea is that the second Bet HaMikdash is a precursor, is the foundation of the third. So therefore, this Nevuah both is talking about the second Bet HaMikdash, as they just started building, and also really the message is for the third Bet HaMikdash. So if you're learning a second Bet HaMikdash, simple is, it's not coming through your strength, Hashem says, right? There was no war. We didn't fight any armies. The Persians give us permission to go build it, right? Lo bekoach, v'lo bechayil. Ki im beruchi amar Hashem. Hashem says, I'm the one who put in the head of the Persians to let you build it. But on a deeper level, we're discussing Beit Shlishi, the third Bet HaMikdash, when it's going to be rebuilt. And he continues and he says, Mi ata Har HaGadol. Why this big mountain? Which means this Evan, this stone that is let me read the whole pasuk, then I'm going to explain it. Mi ata har gadol, this big mountain, lifnei Zerubbabel, which is standing in front of Zerubbabel. Let me show it. I'm going to flatten it for you. Ve'otzi et ha'even harosha, and I'm going to take out the stone that its foundation. Teshuot chen chena, and all who see it will see, wow, look how beautiful this stone is. What's the significance? The stone is the foundation of the Bet HaMikdash, but it's covered, right? There's a Har Gadol, there's a huge mountain in front of it. So the Har Gadol can mean the nations and the Jews who were actually holding back from rebuilding the Bet HaMikdash, doing the second Bet HaMikdash, who caused the building to be stopped. And that created, in a sense, a mountain in front that you can't build it. And Hashem says, don't worry about them. I'm going to flatten it for you. I'll get rid of them. You don't have to fight, not with strength, not with wars. I'll take care of it. I will flatten the mountain so we can reveal the stone. But in a deeper level, we're discussing Beit Shlishi. There's a Har Gadol, which means there's a huge mountain obstructing our way to building the Beit Shlishi, to building the third temple. There's an impediment in the way. On a simple level, there's a huge mosque there, which you're allowed to go on Harabait, right? There's an impediment on the way. There's a mountain blocking the stone of the foundation of the Bet HaMikdash, which is underneath it. But in reality, is the Har Gadol is that Hashem is not yet visible. We live in a world where everything's run through natural means. We don't see Hashem running the world outright. We have to look. We need eyes to see, and we don't see it. We see it natural. We have the Shiva Kochvei Leket, the 7 planetary bodies that are influencing the world. It's not Hashem. Therefore, he continues, I'm going to flatten that out. And you see that it will come on its own through me directly. Therefore, Zecharia says, Hashem spoke to me. And this is Dvar Hashem Elai. Not Ayre Malach, Hashem speaks to him. Yedei Zerubbabel Yisdu Habayit Hazeh. The hands of Zerubbabel are the ones who laid the foundation of Beit Sheni. Ve'adav Tibatzana. And his hands are going to complete it. Ve'adat, and you will know ki Hashem tzivakot shelachani alchem. You'll know that I, Hashem, sent to you. So simply means Zerubbabel and Beit Sheni, that he laid the foundation, and he's the one who's going to eventually complete the building of the second Bet HaMikdash. On a deeper level, we're referring to Beit Shlishi, the third Bet HaMikdash. Zerubbabel is the descendant of David, who was supposed to be his descendant will be Mashiach, a descendant of Zerubbabel. Right? A descendant of Zerubbabel. So it says, your hands will complete it. Through your children, your descendants are going to complete this Bet HaMikdash, and you'll know that I sent you. Kimi baz leyom ketanot. V'samechu. Now, the second Bet HaMikdash, it says in Sefer Ezra, when they started laying the foundations for it, many started crying in tears. This is it? Because they remembered the first Bet HaMikdash. They remembered it in its glory. The elders still remember the first one. And now they see this, and it's a skeleton of what the first one was, right? So, Kimi Baz Leom Ketanot, those who are Baz, right, who basically scorned the second Bet HaMikdash is Katan. V'samechu, they'll rejoice. V'ra'u et ha'even ha'bedil b'yad Zerubbabel, and they'll see the stone of Bedil. Bedil means literally like it's lead, right? In the hands of Zerubbabel. Shiv'a ele. And this stone, which we mentioned in the previous Nebuah, that had 7 eyes, right? Ene Hashem hema. Those are the eyes of Hashem. Meshotetim b'chol haaretz. They're able to see all over the world, which means the Hashgacha is no longer from the planetary systems that are influencing the world, but it's actually the eyes of Hashem directly. Meshotetim b'chol haaretz. Scouting out around the world. But I answered him. And I said to Hashem, what are these 2 olive trees? Al yamin hamenorah ve'al simolah, that are standing to the right and to the left of the menorah. So we saw there was a menorah, above it this bowl, with branches leading to the cups of the menorah, and on two sides were these olive trees. Van Shanit, and the second time I said to him, Va'omar alav, and I said to him, and here we find more detail into the vision which we saw before. Mashte shibole azatim. What are these two clusters of grapes, of olives, right? Asher biyad shene tzantarot hazahav, which are by the tzantarot zahav, are sort of presses, golden presses that are pressing the olives. Hamarikim alehem hazahav, that are squeezing the oil, and it's such pure, beautiful oil that it flows looks like gold flowing out of it. So besides having the bowl and having the olives are being pressed by these golden presses on their own automatically, and it's flowing into this bowl, which is flowing into the branches of the menorah. So what does this represent? And he responds to me and he says, don't you know ma'ele? Don't you know what it means? Again, I don't know. What this back and forth is, I haven't seen anybody clearly clarify. I don't know what that means, right? But again, Malach assumes that Zecharia should understand the vision, and Zecharia says, I don't understand the vision. So he explains it to me. These are the two children of Yitzhar. What's Yitzhar? Yitzhar literally means oil, right? Which means that Haomdim aladam kol haaretz. These are the two Bnei Yitzhar. Now, there are two people that are anointed with the oil, the Shemen HaMishcha, the anointing oil. What are the two people anointed with Shemen HaMishcha? The king and the Kohen Gadol, right? So the two people standing, but these two olive trees that are standing on the side of the menorah, representing the king and Kohen Gadol, right? Could be Zerubbabel and Yoshua ben Yotzedek as far as Beit Sheni, or Mashiach, who's going to be the king and the future Kohen Gadol, that are standing on the two sides. And through their tefillot, and through them, will Hashem be mashpia directly into the whole world. And the way the Malbim explains it, he says, the job of a king is he conducts the kingdom, right? He's the one who manages the kingdom, and the whole kingdom serves him. And he's the one who puts everybody in their positions. And he's responsible for everybody's, filling every single person in the kingdom fitting their specific role that they're supposed to accomplish in life. And through that, he brings shalom, he brings re'ut, he brings ben adam lechavero, he brings peace and harmony amongst his inhabitants. That's the role of a king. And that's how he unifies the Jewish people. And he brings peace between them and every single person in their unique roles and their own makom, in their own place they're supposed to contribute to the kingdom. The job of the Kohen Gadol, however, is to connect the kingdom to Hashem. Right? That's ben adam makom, ben adam lechavero. And basically what the Malbim is explaining is, not only through them will that happen, but it seems like the way to get to these two olive trees is that way, right? You need to strengthen both these aspects to connect to Mashiach ben David and the Kohen Gadol to be able to bring this about. And the message of Zecharia, the Nevuah of Zecharia, again, they're Nevuot Astumim, they're hard to understand. But the Nevuah, what Hashem is saying, those seven eyes represent that I will be mashpia directly on the world. There won't be intermediaries, there won't be malachim, there won't be anything. I myself will bring all this about, direct hashpa'ah for me, without any intermediaries whatsoever. And that will be channeled through the king and the Kohen Gadol who will serve in the future. And this is the message of the Nebuah of Zecharia as far as we can understand it.